Hey everyone, welcome back to Void Signal. Tonight we're heading 3,000 feet beneath the Kansas plains, into an abandoned missile silo that was never truly empty. Down there, something ancient is humming. And it's not a machine. Also, quick note before we descend. This story is told with a female voice. A lot of you voted for that option in the poll, so I wanted to bring it to life for this one. I think it fits the story in a way that feels different. All right, turn down the lights. Let's descend into today's story.
I recorded the first version of this on a cracked phone in a motel bathroom because I couldn't stand the way mirrors looked at me anymore. That's not a metaphor, not the poetic kind. After Silo 47, reflections stopped behaving like reflections. They started behaving like witnesses. So I spoke into the dark instead, voice low, back pressed against cold tile, shower curtain drawn like it could hide me from a memory. My name is Evelyn Carter, Evie, if you knew me before I started hearing machines breathe. And if you're listening to this because you found a link, or a file, or a little grey thumb drive with no label, please understand something up front. We didn't go down there to be heroes. We went down because grief makes you stupid, and curiosity makes you arrogant, and when you combine the two, you get a person like me. A biochemist who should have known better, walking into a sealed government hole in the middle of Kansas with a flashlight and a question mark where her father used to be. Kansas looks flat until you realise it isn't. The land swells and dips in slow waves that hide things. Old wells, sinkholes, forgotten farm equipment, and, if you know where to step, rusted fencing swallowed by tall grass. Silo 47 wasn't on any map. Not a public one. Not even the private ones I'd learned to access after Marcus taught me how to peel back the thin skin of the internet and stare at its nervous system. We found it the way people find graves, by following what didn't add up. A payroll stub with a redacted location code, a declassified memo with a black bar that didn't fully cover the word beneath it. A photo in my father's belongings, creased, water-stained, showing him in hard hat and coveralls, smiling too wide beside a steel hatch in the middle of nowhere. The back of the photo had one thing written in his handwriting, and beneath it, "Do not go down." Marcus called it a dare. He always did that with warnings. Turned them into puzzles, turned fear into a thing he could win against. He picked me up in Wichita in his ugly van that smelled like solder and old fast food. His laptop was open on the passenger seat, a spider web of tabs and schematics, satellite photos with bright circles drawn around unremarkable patches of prairie. "Evie," he said, like he'd been waiting his whole life to speak the name in this exact tone. "You're going to love this. Or hate it. But either way, you're going to be right, which is basically love for you." "Drive," I said. My hands were already shaking, and I hated him for seeing it. By the time we reached the county line, the sky was a low, bruised ceiling. Wind dragged across the fields like something heavy being pulled. The kind of day where even the sun looks reluctant. Sam met us at a gas station that had one working pump, and a dog asleep in the doorway like it owned the place. Samantha Lynn was smaller than I expected, sharp-eyed, hair tied back, camera bag, slung across her shoulder like a weapon. She smiled too quickly when Marcus introduced us, and it didn't touch her eyes. "Evie Carter," she said. "The biochemist." I didn't like that she knew my name without being told. "You're the journalist," I said. "Used to be," she corrected. "Now I'm a person who can still open doors." Marcus made a show of being charming. I watched Sam instead. Watched the way her gaze kept drifting toward the highway, the way she checked her phone without unlocking it, like she was reading something off a dark screen. She said she had a contact who'd get us through the outer fence line without triggering alarms. That she had a map. That she could make sure, if we found anything real, it wouldn't disappear into a bureaucratic shredder. And I wanted to believe her. Because wanting is easier than doubting when the ground under your life is already missing. We drove another hour into emptier and emptier land until the roads stopped being roads. Grassland swallowed the tyre tracks behind us. Marcus's GPS spun like it was confused by the concept of being this alone. The fence came first. Rusted chain link, bowed inward, half collapsed under vines. The warning signs were faded to pale ghosts of words. Marcus cut through with bolt cutters, grinning like a kid breaking into a pool after hours. I should have turned around right then. I remember thinking, my father wrote "do not go down." And then thinking, he wrote it for me. That's the lie grief tells you. That someone's final warning is actually a secret invitation meant just for you. Beyond the fence, the ground rose slightly. An unnatural mound, like the earth had been stitched. In the centre sat the hatch. Circular, steel, the colour of old blood. It looked smaller than it did in the photo, like it had shrunk from shame. Marcus brushed away grass and dirt from a recessed handle. "This is it," he said, voice reverent. Sam pulled out her camera, snapped a few photos, then stopped. "No flash," she murmured, as if reminding herself more than us. I knelt by the hatch. The metal was colder than the air, and when I put my palm against it, I felt something that made my stomach lurch. A vibration. Not loud, not even audible at first, just a faint tremor that buzzed in my bones. Marcus saw my expression and leaned in. "What? You feel that?" "Yeah," I said. Like a generator." Sam didn't answer. She was staring at the hatch like she recognised it. Marcus started working the lock. Not a padlock, something older, integrated, designed to keep people out who had bolt cutters and optimism. He had tools for that too, of course. He always did. As he worked, the vibration deepened. It crept up from my hand into my wrist, into my jaw. It made my teeth feel loose. I told myself it was machinery settling. Old power systems still running, a backup, a forgotten hum in an abandoned place. But the longer my skin touched the steel, the more it felt like a pulse waiting for an answer. Marcus finally got it. There was a soft, reluctant clunk. Not the sharp sound of a lock breaking, but the tired sound of something giving up after years of holding its breath. The hatch didn't swing open. It sighed. Air rose out of it in a slow exhale that smelled like cold metal, stale antiseptic, and something faintly organic, like damp soil kept sealed in a jar. Marcus shone his flashlight down into the darkness. The beam vanished too quickly. Sam stood beside me. I noticed then that her hand wasn't shaking at all. 3,000 feet, Marcus whispered, like he was talking about heaven. I stared into the hole and felt the vibration in my teeth intensify, as if the darkness had recognised me. Somewhere far below, something answered. Not with a sound, but with a pressure behind my eyes. A sense that the silo wasn't empty. It was waiting. And the moment we stepped onto the ladder and started down, the hatch above us began to close on its own. Not fast, just steady, like it knew we wouldn't be coming back up the same way we entered. The ladder was the first lie. It looked like a simple access shaft. Industrial rungs bolted into concrete, disappearing into darkness. But as soon as my boots touched the first rung, the metal gave off a faint, unwilling shiver, and that vibration I'd felt in the hatch travelled up through my soles like a warning translated into bone. Marcus went first, of course. He always had to be the one to break the seal on things. Sam followed without hesitation, camera strapped to her chest, one hand on the rung, the other holding a small light that was too controlled to be a civilian purchase. I went last. I told myself it was caution, the rational biochemist, the one who still believed in consequences. Really, I was stalling because my father's handwriting was suddenly a weight on my tongue. "Do not go down." The hatch above us continued to drift shut. A slow, deliberate rotation. The circle of daylight shrank into a coin, then a button, then the thin edge of a blade. The last sliver of sky looked like it was cutting us off. Then it was gone. Darkness didn't fall. It arrived. Marcus's flashlight beam wobbled over the shaft walls. Concrete, then older concrete, then steel reinforcement, then something like layered plating, as if at a certain depth the silo stopped being a missile relic and became something newer built inside the old. The air changed every 50 feet. Each layer had its own smell. Dust and rust, then disinfectant, then a faint chemical tang that made the back of my throat tighten. And beneath all of it, the persistent antiseptic rot of somewhere that had been cleaned too hard to hide what happened there. "Still think it's abandoned," Marcus called down, voice echoing in short, sharp repeats. "Abandoned things don't smell like bleach," I answered. Sam didn't speak. I could hear her breathing, controlled and shallow, like she was trying not to waste oxygen, or like she was listening. The shaft widened into an intermediate platform about 200 feet down, a ringed landing with an old emergency ladder cage and a sealed door set into the wall, thick, grey, with a wheel handle. Marcus hopped off first, boots clanging. He tested the handle. It didn't budge. "Locked," he said, almost pleased. Locked meant deliberate. Locked meant story. He shone his light around. The wall beside the door was marked with peeling stencils. Silo 47, access ring. See authorized personnel only below that, faded almost to nothing. Biohazard. Sam finally raised her camera. Click. Click. She didn't use flash. She didn't need to. I stared at the biohazard symbol. My mouth went dry in a way that wasn't fear. It was recognition. Not conscious recognition, but the body's older language. You have smelled this before. I'd spent my 20s in labs. I knew chemical tangs. I knew sterilised air. I knew the particular flatness of a space that had once been alive with people in gloves, trying very hard not to contaminate themselves or something else. Marcus knelt by a junction box near the door, pried open a panel with his multi-tool. "If there's power, there's access," he muttered. A thin strip of LEDs inside the panel glowed green. My stomach dropped. "You said abandoned," I whispered. Marcus looked up, eyes shining. "I said officially abandoned." "That's different." Sam's gaze flicked to me, then away. "Power could be automated. Backup systems." "Or someone's been down here recently," I said, and tried not to imagine what someone meant. Marcus bridged 2 contacts. The LEDs along the doorframe flickered, then steadied. A lock clicked with a sound that felt too fresh to belong in a tomb. The wheel handle turned easily. The door opened inward with a slow hydraulic sigh. Cold air spilled out like a held breath. It smelled like metal and something faintly sweet, like overripe fruit left in a sterile fridge. We stepped through. The corridor beyond was narrower than I expected. Walls made of brushed steel panels riveted in long seams. Fluorescent lights ran in strips overhead, but half of them were dead, and the ones that worked flickered in a rhythm that wasn't random. On, off, on, off, off, on. It was almost like blinking. "Jesus," Marcus breathed. "This is intact." Not just intact, maintained. The floor was clean enough to reflect light in dull smears. No dust, no mildew, no graffiti, no animal droppings, no abandonment. My skin prickled under my jacket. I could feel the low hum now without touching anything. It had moved from the hatch into the air itself, a sub-audible frequency that pressed against my inner ear. Sam adjusted her camera strap. "Stay close," she said. The words were casual, but her tone carried something else, an authority that didn't match local journalist. It made Marcus glance at her, then smirk. "Look at you, taking point. he teased. Didn't know. Reporters came with tactical instincts. Sam smiled without warmth. I've covered riots. That didn't explain the light or the calm. We moved down the corridor, passing door after door with labels stencilled beside them. Most were shut. A few were slightly ajar, as if left in a hurry, or as if someone wanted them to seem carelessly left. Marcus tried a handle. Locked. Another. Locked. Then we reached a window set into the wall. Thick glass, reinforced. Marcus swung his flashlight through it. Inside was a room full of cages, not the kind used for mice, larger. Waist-high metal enclosures with latches and feed ports. Several were empty, doors left open. Some still had shredded bedding and dark stains that looked too brown to be rust. My throat tightened. That's not animal housing, I said. Marcus leaned closer, grin fading. No. My brain began doing what it always did under stress, categorising, measuring, trying to make an environment into data. Cage sizes, vent placement, drainage channels in the floor, the steel hooks along the ceiling. Hooks. I stared too long at the hooks, and something in the back of my mind flashed an image that didn't belong to me. A man in a white coat reaching up to unclip restraints, hands trembling, muttering, "No, no, no," as if saying it enough times could change what he was doing. I jerked back from the glass. "What?" Marcus asked. "Nothing," I lied. "Just imagining." Sam watched me, eyes narrowed. We kept going. The corridor opened into a junction with 3 paths. A sign hung crookedly from the ceiling. Ring C, Operations Ring D, Labs Ring E, Descent Core. Marcus pointed his flashlight toward Labs. That's where the good stuff is. Sam's gaze lingered on Descent Core. That's where the deepest levels are. My pulse kicked. We said we'd document, not what? Marcus cut in, voice sharp. Not find the truth. Evie, your dad didn't vanish because he got lost in a cornfield. He vanished because he was in here. He was right. And I hated him for being right in a way that made my fear feel petty. Sam cleared her throat. Start with Labs. We need context before we go deeper. I didn't miss the way she said we need, like she'd already decided the path. We took the Labs corridor. The flickering lights overhead intensified as we walked, as if reacting to our presence. In one stretch, the lights snapped off entirely, plunging us into a pocket of dark so complete it felt thick. Marcus cursed softly. His flashlight beam cut forward. And in that beam, for half a second, I saw something that made my heart stop. A shadow. Not cast by us. Not attached to anybody. It moved along the wall ahead, sliding like oil, then vanished as soon as the lights flickered back on. Marcus saw my face. Evie? Did you... I started. I saw something, Sam said quickly. Too quick, like she wanted to control the narrative. Marcus frowned. What did you see? Sam hesitated. Just... movement. I wanted to say what I'd seen. But the moment I tried to form the description, that low hum pressed harder against my teeth, and my thoughts went fuzzy at the edges, like something had dampened them. We reached a door labelled Neural Adaptation Suite. My breath caught. That phrase lived in my world, my discipline, my research. The idea of adapting neural tissue to tolerate toxins, radiation, or extreme environments wasn't fiction. It was grant proposals and lab mice and careful ethics boards. But here, under Kansas farmland, it felt like a confession. Marcus pulled the door open. Inside, the room was lit in a sickly blue glow from monitors that were still on. A bank of screens displayed paused video feeds. The first frame showed a man strapped to a chair, head shaved, eyes wide, mouth gagged. Electrodes spidered across his skull. The timestamp in the corner was, old, years old, but the image quality was clear. Too clear. Marcus stepped closer. "Oh my God!" Sam's camera clicked rapidly. "This is... Stop!" I snapped, more forcefully than I meant. My hands were shaking. "Stop recording for a second." Sam froze, then lowered the camera slowly, expression unreadable. I moved toward the screens, drawn like gravity. In the reflection of the monitor glass, my own face looked pale and stretched. For a moment, it didn't match my movements perfectly. It lagged by a fraction of a second, as if the image of me was thinking before it copied. I blinked hard. The reflection corrected. On a nearby desk lay a stack of journals, bound in cracked black leather. The top one had a name embossed in faded gold. Dr. Henry Lutz. And beside it, a small plastic evidence bag containing a torn piece of paper. I recognised the handwriting before my brain allowed me to. My father's. It was only 2 words. Not safe. The hum in these walls deepened as if amused. Behind us, somewhere deeper in the corridor, a door slammed shut. Not a random creak, a deliberate, heavy impact. And then, faint, almost polite, came a sound that made my blood turn cold. A whisper. Not in my ears, in my thoughts. Evie. The first time your name appears inside your skull without travelling through air, you don't question whether you heard it. You question whether you've finally broken. I spun toward the corridor, flashlight beams slicing across steel walls, across the door we'd just come through, across the dim stretch of hallway where the lights flickered like a faulty pulse. "Marcus," I said, because the voice had used my name the way he did when he wanted to pull me out of my head. He stared at me, mouth slightly open. His face had gone blank in that particular way people look right before they start lying to themselves. "You heard it too," I said. His jaw tightened. "Yeah." Sam was already by the door, listening, head tilted. She didn't look frightened. She looked focused, like someone listening to a transmission. "What was it?" Marcus demanded. Sam glanced back at us. Probably a speaker system. Old intercom. "Intercoms don't whisper directly into your thoughts," I said. She didn't flinch at the phrasing. That bothered me more than if she'd laughed. I moved to the desk with Lutz's journals. The leather was dry, edges frayed, but the pages inside were crisp. Preserved. Controlled environment. Someone had kept these safe. I opened the first one and my breath caught. Not because of what it said, because the first page had a photo clip to it, paper clipped like a casual bookmark. A man in a lab coat, sleeves rolled, holding a clipboard, caught mid-laugh. His hair was darker than I remembered, his face fuller, but the smile was unmistakable. My father. A caption beneath the photo in careful block letters. Primary template, Carter, D. My fingers went numb. Marcus stepped closer, reading over my shoulder. Evie. Sam hovered behind him, camera in hand again, but not lifted. For the first time, I saw hesitation in her. Not fear, calculation. I flipped pages too fast, as if speed could protect me. Lutz's handwriting marched across the paper in tight, obsessive lines. Subjects display rapid neural reconfiguration when exposed to signal. Gene editing, successful in increasing tolerance, window. Failure mode. Consistent, identity dissolution, synchronic hallucination, self-injury. Carter argues we are not building soldiers. We are building filters. Filters. My father had always used that word when he talked about the brain. The way perception narrows the world into something survivable. The way most humans never see reality raw, because raw reality would crush us. I set the journal down like it was hot. Marcus swallowed. Your dad, he worked with Lutz. I know, I said, but it came out wrong. Thin, like a child. Sam finally lifted her camera, then stopped again. Evie, she said quietly, do you want me to record this? The question surprised me. It sounded like genuine restraint. Human. No, I said. Then after a second, not yet. Marcus pulled up one of the paused videos on the monitor. The footage began with a harsh click of audio, then the sterile glare of a lab room. A man sat strapped in a chair, head shaved, electrodes glued to his scalp. His eyes darted, wild, tracking something that wasn't visible to the camera. A voice spoke off-screen. Male, calm. Subject 12. Exposure at 1 minute. Begin. The hum in the room we stood in deepened, as if the video had woken something up. On the screen, a technician turned a dial. A low-frequency tone leaked through the speakers, so deep it barely registered as sound and more as pressure. The strapped man stiffened. His chest jerked as if his lungs forgot their job. Then his eyes widened further, and his gaze locked onto something above the camera. He started crying, not sobbing, just tears pouring down like someone had cut a line. He tried through the gag. His hands strained against restraints until his wrists bled. The off-screen voice said, "Describe what you see." The subject shook his head violently. Tears flung. His eyes rolled back, then snapped forward again with awful focus. His body went rigid, then slack, then rigid again. He forced words around the gag somehow, broken by panic. "Under," he choked. "Under the..." The tech leaned in. "Under the what?" The subject's eyes found the camera, and for a moment it felt like he was looking at me through time. "Under the skin of the world," he whispered. Then his teeth began chattering so hard I thought he'd shatter them. The video cut to static. Marcus's face had gone pale. "Holy... Evie, this is insane. This is neuroscience," I said automatically, then realised how wrong that sounded. It's something pretending to be neuroscience." Sam stepped closer to the journals. Her fingers hovered over the page with my father's photo, but she didn't touch it. "Your father was involved," she said. "But that doesn't mean he agreed with it." I looked at her. "How do you know that?" Sam hesitated. "Because people don't leave warnings like that if they're proud. Not safe. Do not go down." My throat tightened. The warnings weren't about getting arrested. They were about something else. Marcus clicked open another file. "There's more footage," he said, voice too eager to hide his fear. A folder labelled 47-core. The hum surged, and the overhead lights flickered in a sharp strobe. On the screen, a corridor like ours, but deeper. Walls darker, reinforced. A group of people in hazmat suits stood around a sealed door marked with a symbol I didn't recognise. It looked like a circle intersected by a vertical line, but the line was not straight. It wavered, like something drawn by a trembling hand. A speaker crackled. "Begin interface trial." Someone opened the sealed door. The camera feed distorted immediately. The image bent. Straight lines curved like heat shimmer. The sound warped into something like distant choir notes played underwater. A figure stepped forward. Tall, wrong-limbed, wrapped in restraints and monitoring cables. It looked human in silhouette, but the proportions were subtly off. Arms too long, head angled slightly as if its neck didn't trust its own joints. Its face was blurred by the distortion, but I could make out the suggestion of a mouth stretched into a line that wasn't quite a smile. And then the creature turned, slowly, like it sensed the camera watching. The distortion cleared for one perfect, horrifying frame. The creature's eyes were human and familiar. Not because I'd seen them in a photo, because I'd seen them across a dinner table once, when my father was too tired to pretend he was fine. I stumbled back, knocking my hip against the desk. My vision tunnelled. Marcus paused the video. "Evie." "That's not possible," I whispered. The room swayed. The hum pressed into my skull. Behind my eyes, memories not mine began to leak in. Bright surgical lights, gloved hands, the smell of antiseptic so thick it tasted sweet. A man's voice saying, "If it's going to map anyone, let it map me." My knees threatened to give. Sam stepped toward me instinctively, hand out. "Evie, breathe." I jerked away. "Don't touch me." Her hand froze mid-air, then lowered slowly. Hurt flickered across her face, quick as a shadow. The corridor outside the lab room was silent. Too silent. Then came the sound of something moving. Slow, heavy, dragging itself along metal. Not running, not rushing. Approaching like it had all the time in the world. Marcus's whisper cracked. "We need to go." I stared at my father's photo clipped inside Lutz's journal. The smiling face. The man who wrote warnings and then vanished. The hum deepened into a steady, patient throb. And inside my skull, the whisper returned. Closer. Now intimate, like lips near my ear. "Evie, don't make me come all the way up." Marcus's flashlight shook as he backed toward the door. "Okay," he said under his breath, like he was trying to talk himself into reality. "Okay, we're leaving. We got proof. We got—" A metallic scrape interrupted him. Not loud, not dramatic, just the sound of something heavy being pulled across steel with deliberate care, as if whatever was out there didn't want to rush and risk falling. Sam flicked her light toward the corridor. The beam reached only a short distance before the air seemed to swallow it. That bothered me more than darkness should have. Light didn't just fade. It softened, like the hallway had a texture that absorbed it. "Door," Marcus whispered. "Evie, help me with the door." My hands felt thick, clumsy. My thoughts were full of cotton and static. But my body understood danger in a way my mind couldn't debate. I moved. The lab door had a heavy hydraulic hinge. We pulled it shut, and for half a second it resisted, as if something on the other side held it open with invisible fingers. Then it gave, sealing with a muted click. Marcus exhaled too loudly. Sam stepped immediately to the desk and snatched the evidence bag with my father's note. "Not safe." She didn't ask, she just did it. "Hey!" I snapped, reaching for it. She held it up. "We need it." "It's mine," I said, voice sharp with panic I didn't want to own. Sam's eyes flicked to the corridor, then back. "Evie, listen to me. If we get out and someone intercepts us, physical proof matters. Not just videos. Not just files Marcus can lose with one EMP or one—" "Who would intercept us?" Marcus said, too fast. Sam's mouth tightened. "If this place is maintained, someone knows. Someone always knows." That was the first honest thing she'd said since we met. The hum intensified, and the fluorescent lights above us flickered in a harsh sequence that felt like code. On, off, off, on, off. My heart started matching, it without my permission. Marcus grabbed the black leather journal. "We're taking these." "I'm taking the drive," Sam said, reaching for the computer tower. "You can't carry a tower," Marcus hissed. "I can pull the storage," she shot back, already working a tool from her bag. Of course she had tools. The corridor outside remained quiet, but the silence had weight now, like a finger held to lips. The scrape didn't stop. It moved past the door, then paused. I held my breath. A soft sound came through the metal, almost like a sigh. Then the whisper returned, not in my ears, but in the wet space behind my eyes. "You came anyway." My vision flashed, not with light, but with memory. Someone else's memory. a hallway full of people in white coats. My father walking ahead of them, shoulders hunched. Lutz beside him, speaking in a low voice. "You shouldn't name it," Lutz said. My father replied, "I'm not naming it. I'm reminding myself it's not a thing. It's a person." Lutz's laugh was tired. "If you keep talking like that, you'll volunteer before I even ask." The memory snapped away like a film strip burned. I bit the inside of my cheek hard enough to taste blood. The pain anchored me. "Evie," Marcus said softly, "we have to move." Sam finished prying out a solid-state drive from the workstation and shoved it into a padded pouch. Done. She looked at me, and for the first time her calm cracked. "Whatever that is out there, it's close." We opened the lab door. The corridor lights were dimmer now, as if they were running out of patience. Marcus swept his flashlight left and right. Nothing. No movement. No figure. Just the corridor and the hum and the feeling that we were being watched by something that didn't need eyes. We moved fast, boots whispering on clean metal floor. At the junction, the 3 corridor signs hung like bad choices. Marcus angled toward operations. "Maybe. There's an exit route, a lift, something." Sam shook her head. "Descent core. We go back the way we came." Marcus barked a laugh that wasn't humour. "Back up a ladder for 3,000 feet. While that thing—" "I don't care," Sam snapped. "Up is air. Up is sky. I'm not going deeper." Her tone made it clear this wasn't about journalism anymore. It was about survival. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt a tug. Not from below, not a temptation. A pull like a magnet under my ribs. The words in my father's handwriting burned in my mind. "Do not go down! Not safe!" Warnings, yes. But also direction. As if he'd been trying to steer me away from something he knew I would run toward. The hum shifted. It became uneven, like something adjusting its pitch. And then, from the operations corridor, a sound floated toward us. A low, ragged cough. Human. Marcus froze. "Did you hear that?" Sam lifted her light. "Someone's down here." My mouth went dry. "No!" Another sound, faint, hoarse. "Help! Me!" It was a man's voice, weak, familiar in that way voices can seem when you want them to be. Marcus took one step toward the operations hallway. "Holy Evie, what if it's my dad?" I finished, and hated myself for the way my voice broke. Sam's face tightened. "It could be bait." "It could be real," Marcus insisted. "Evie, you came here for him." "I came here for the truth," I said, though it felt like a lie I'd learned to tell myself. The cough came again, closer now, echoing off metal. "Evie," Sam stiffened. "It knows your name." Marcus's eyes were wide. "Or it's him." I stared into the operations corridor. The light flickered, and for a second the far end looked longer than it should, stretching like a throat. The hum pressed into my teeth until they ached. A voice, soft as breath, formed inside my head. "I tried to keep you out." Tears stung my eyes. The sentence felt like my father. It felt like him so sharply it hurt. And that was the most terrifying part. Because if it could sound like him, it could wear anything I loved like a mask. Sam grabbed my sleeve. "Evie, don't." Her grip was firm, grounding, a human touch, warm, real. I looked down at her hand and saw for half a second a faint tremor in her fingers, fear finally leaking through. "Stay together," she said. "We go up, now." Marcus swallowed hard, torn between devotion to me and terror of whatever waited. The cough echoed again, closer still. "Please." Then, abruptly, the voice dropped all pretense and became something else, layered, too many tones in one place. "Come down!" The lights in the junction flared bright, then snapped off. In the sudden dark, the hum became a roar you couldn't hear, only feel, like the whole silo had inhaled. And somewhere in that blackness, something moved fast. Not dragging now, running straight toward us. When the lights died, instinct replaced thought. Marcus grabbed my wrist so hard it hurt. Sam's beam snapped on at the same time, slicing a narrow cone through the dark. The corridor ahead wasn't empty anymore. Something was in it. Not fully visible, not fully formed in the light, but moving. Fast, fluid, wrong. "Run!" Marcus shouted. We bolted toward descent core. Behind us, metal screamed as something slammed into the wall where we'd been standing. The impact dented reinforced steel like it was thin sheet metal. The sound rang through my bones. The hum was no longer subtle. It throbbed in pulses, matching the rhythm of the pounding steps behind us. I didn't look back. The junction blurred. My lungs burned almost immediately. Fear has a way of stealing oxygen from the future. Sam reached the descent core door first. A thick, reinforced barrier with a keypad beside it. "It's locked," she hissed. Marcus skidded to a stop and shoved me behind him, fumbling for his tools. "Give me 10 seconds." "You don't have 10 seconds," I snapped. The corridor behind us rippled. That's the only word I have for it. The air itself bent as something moved through it, distorting light like heat shimmer, but darker, denser. My peripheral vision kept catching angles that didn't align. Limbs too long, shoulders too narrow, a head that tilted in increments instead of smoothly. And then it stepped fully into Sam's beam. It was tall, taller than any human should comfortably be. Its body was wrapped in shredded remnants of a containment suit, cables trailing from its back like severed nerves. Its skin looked almost normal in colour, but too tight across the bone, as if stretched over a frame that had grown beyond it. Its arms hung long, fingers elongated, joints subtly wrong. But its face was almost perfectly human. Almost. The eyes were the problem. They were steady, focused, intelligent, and they knew me. "Evie," it said, and the voice was layered. My father's tone braided with something lower, resonant, like wind through a cavern. Marcus dropped his screwdriver. "Oh my God," he breathed. Sam didn't scream. She did something far more dangerous. She stepped forward. "Sir," she said, voice calm but trembling at the edges. "Can you understand me?" The creature's head angled slightly, considering her. "I understand," it replied. Its mouth moved in sync with the words, but the sound felt like it was coming from deeper. Through the walls, through the floor, through my own teeth. Marcus snapped out of paralysis and grabbed my shoulders. "Evie, that's not your dad." "I know," I whispered. But I didn't. The creature took a step closer. The metal floor bowed faintly under its weight. "You weren't supposed to come," it said. "I told them. You weren't ready." My heart stuttered. "You left," I said before I could stop myself. "You left me." The creature's eyes flickered. Something moved behind them, memory or imitation. "I stayed," it said softly, "so you wouldn't have to." Sam's breath hitched. "What does that mean?" The hum surged, vibrating the descent core door behind us. The keypad flickered. The creature's gaze shifted past us toward the sealed door. "It's waking," it said. Marcus found his voice. "What is waking?" The creature looked back at me. "Everything." The corridor lights flared violently, then stabilized in a harsh white glare that revealed more detail than I wanted. The creature's chest wasn't rising with breath. Instead, faint rhythmic contractions moved beneath its skin, as if something else inside it was doing the breathing. Cables trailed from the base of its skull, not embedded but grown around, woven into tissue. Along its arms, faint patterns pulsed beneath the skin, lines that glowed faintly in sync with the hum. Genetic modification, my mind supplied automatically. Accelerated neural conductivity, protein lattice reinforcement, my father's field. "You're synchronized," I whispered. The creature smiled, not widely, but with an aching familiarity. Yes. The hum deepened. The walls around us began to tremble, not violently, but with an expanding pressure. The fluorescent tubes overhead flickered in unison now. The creature tilted its head slightly. "You can feel it," it said to me. "You always could." Marcus shook his head violently. "This is insane. Evie, this thing is manipulating you." Sam's hand slowly moved toward her bag. The creature's eyes flicked to her. "You don't belong here," it said, tone flattening. Sam froze. "None of us do," Marcus shot back. The creature ignored him. "You were sent," it said to Sam. The air snapped tight. Marcus looked at her sharply. "What?" Sam's jaw clenched. "That's not—" "Recovery," the creature continued. "Containment breach protocol. Media cover." Marcus stepped back from her like she'd ignited. "You're kidding me." Sam's eyes flashed with anger. "I was tipped off. That's it." The creature took another step forward. "No," it said gently. "You were authorized." The hum pulsed harder. The descent core keypad blinked green for a split second, then red again. Sam's calm fractured. "Evie, don't listen to it. It's trying to divide us." "Is it?" Marcus demanded. I stared at her. The tools, the light, the way she knew about interception, the way she watched corridors like she expected patrol routes. "Sam," I said quietly, "who are you?" For a heartbeat, she looked tired. Not guilty, not villainous, just tired. "I wanted the story," she said. "At first. Then I got a call. Someone high up who said if I came here and found anything, I was to notify them before publishing. That's it." Marcus let out a harsh laugh. "So you're a leash." Her eyes snapped to him. "I didn't plan on using it." The creature watched us like an observer at a lab bench. "It's not about you," it said softly. "It's about the frequency." The hum spiked. The descent core door behind us unlocked with a loud metallic thunk. All three of us flinched. The keypad glowed green. The creature's gaze locked on me. "It's rising," it said. "Because you came." A tremor rolled through the floor. Not from the corridor, from below. Marcus's voice was barely steady. "Evie, what is below this?" The creature's eyes softened, painfully, unbearably. "What I've been holding back." The lights flickered again, and this time the far end of the corridor didn't stretch. It opened. Not physically. The walls remained where they were. But the space felt deeper, as if distance had become negotiable. The hum transformed into something layered, multiple tones harmonizing, too complex to be mechanical. The creature turned slightly toward the now unlocked descent core door. "You need to leave," it said. "Come with us," I said. For a second, something like longing crossed its face. "I can't," it replied. Another tremor shook the silo. From deep below, something answered the hum. And whatever it was far larger than the thing standing in front of us. The tremor didn't stop. It rolled through the silo in slow, measured waves, like something enormous shifting in its sleep far below us. Marcus backed toward the newly unlocked descent core door. "We are not going deeper," he said immediately. "That is not happening. That is the opposite of survival." The creature's eyes stayed on me. "You already are deeper," it said quietly. The hum pressed harder into my skull, and with it came flashes, fractured, disjointed impressions that weren't mine. A chamber far below. Not lab-built, not steel, stone. Not carved, not drilled. Revealed. My father standing at its edge, staring into a vertical shaft that descended past the reach of artificial light, the hum rising from it like breath. "Daniel," Lutz's voice behind him, strained. "We can't map it without interface." My father replying, "Then I'll interface." The memory snapped away. I staggered, grabbing the wall. Marcus caught my elbow. "Evie, hey, stay with me." "I am," I said, though my voice sounded distant. Sam stared at the creature. "What is below this silo?" she demanded. The creature's expression shifted. Not pride, not fear. Responsibility. "It was here first," it said. The descent core door creaked open behind us on its own. Cold air surged upward. Not the sterile chill of climate control, but something mineral and ancient. Damp, metallic, with a trace of ozone that made my tongue tingle. Marcus swore under his breath. "That's not ventilation." Another tremor hit, stronger. Dust shook loose from seams in the ceiling. One of the fluorescent tubes shattered, plunging part of the corridor into deeper shadow. From below, a new sound joined the hum. Not mechanical, not human. A layered resonance like 1,000 distant radio stations overlapping in a pattern too deliberate to be noise. The creature turned toward the open descent core. "It feels you," it said to me. Sam shot me a look. "What does that mean?" "It means," the creature continued gently, "the edits worked." My stomach dropped. "What edits?" Marcus snapped. The creature looked at him with something like pity. "You think Daniel Carter volunteered because he was brave?" My breath caught. "He volunteered," the creature said, "because he knew his daughter already carried the tolerance markers." The corridor seemed to tilt. "That's not possible," I whispered. "I would know if I'd been genetically altered." The creature's head tilted slightly. "Would you?" My mind raced. Childhood hospital visits I barely remembered. Routine blood work my father insisted on. The way he'd watched me when I complained about headaches. About the strange buzzing I sometimes heard when fluorescent lights flickered in school classrooms. "You were baseline compatible," the creature continued. He refined it, for himself. Marcus stared at me like I'd grown another face. "Evie." Sam's expression shifted from suspicion to something closer to fear. "They used you as a template." "No," I said immediately. The hum spiked, and in that spike, I felt it, like a pressure equalising in my inner ear. A sensation of something aligning. The layered resonance from below intensified, weaving into the hum until the entire silo vibrated like a tuning fork. The creature stepped aside from the doorway to the descent core. "You need to leave," it said again. Marcus nodded rapidly. "Great. Yes, we agree. We're leaving." But my feet didn't move. The open descent shaft yawned before us. Not a ladder this time, but a spiralling industrial staircase descending around a central column of reinforced steel. Lights lined the spiral, dim and flickering, leading down into a glow that wasn't fluorescent. It was softer, warmer, wrong. "You've been stabilising it," I said to the creature. "Yes." "And?" "We destabilised it by coming here." "Yes." Sam looked between us. "Stop talking like that. What is it?" The creature hesitated. Then, "A signal." Marcus threw his hands up. "Of course it's a signal. It's always a signal. From what? Russia? Space? The damn core of the planet?" The creature's gaze slid back to me. "Not from above," it said. Another tremor, stronger. This time the entire descent core groaned, metal protesting. The layered resonance from below swelled into something almost musical, harmonic, patterned. I stepped closer to the open shaft before I could stop myself. Marcus grabbed my arm again. Evie, no. The air rising from below wrapped around me like a current, and inside my skull, something shifted from whisper to clarity. Not words, coordinates, angles. A sense of depth measured not in feet, but in frequency. "It's not physical," I murmured. Sam's voice was sharp. "Evie, back up." "It is physical," Marcus argued. "It's under us." "No," I said, shaking my head slowly. "It's intersecting." The creature watched me with something like grim pride. "Your father understood," it said. "This place was not chosen randomly. The silo was built because something was detected here long before the Cold War." "Detected how?" Sam demanded. "Seismic anomalies," the creature said. "Electromagnetic irregularities. Patterns in background radiation." Marcus blinked. "You're saying there's something in the Earth broadcasting?" The creature didn't answer directly. Instead, it said to me, "You can feel the pattern." I closed my eyes, and I did. The hum wasn't random. It had structure, a repeating cadence buried under the noise. My training in neural rhythms, in signal processing at the molecular level, it all snapped into alignment. It wasn't a machine. It was organised, and it was adjusting. "It's responding to me," I whispered. The creature nodded once. Another violent tremor shook the silo. This time a crack split the wall near the ceiling, spidering through reinforced steel. Marcus swore loudly. "Okay, that's it. We are officially past the curiosity phase. We're leaving." Sam backed toward the ladder shaft that led upward. "Evie, now." I turned to the creature. "If we leave," I said, voice shaking, "what happens?" The creature's expression changed again, something like exhaustion. "I lose containment," it said simply. The layered resonance from below surged, no longer distant, closer. The spiral staircase lights flickered in cascading sequence downward, like something climbing. Marcus's grip on my arm tightened painfully. "Evie, whatever that thing is holding back, it's not our job." The creature looked at him sharply. "It is her job," it said. The words hit me like impact. "Why?" Sam demanded. "Because she is already synchronized." Silence fell for half a second. Then the central column of the descent core vibrated with a deep, resonant pulse that felt less like sound and more like pressure against my ribcage. From below, something answered. Not with a roar, not with a scream, with a shift. A massive structural shift that made the spiral staircase sway. Marcus pulled me backward just as a crack tore across the floor near the shaft. "Evie!" he shouted. The creature's voice cut through the chaos, calm and urgent at once. "If you leave now, it rises." The lights down the spiral went dark one by one, and from the blackness below, a glow began to build. The glow wasn't bright. That would have been easier. It was diffuse, soft, like light seen through skin. It pulsed faintly from somewhere deep below the spiral staircase, washing the metal steps in a dim amber sheen that made everything look submerged. Marcus dragged me backward another step. "We're done. We're done here." But my feet felt anchored, not by force, not physically, by recognition. The layered resonance rising from below wasn't chaotic anymore. It was structured, intricate. I could almost map it. If I'd had paper, if I'd had time, if I hadn't felt it weaving through my nervous system like a second pulse. Sam's voice cut through the noise. "Evie, look at me." I turned. Her face was pale now, real fear stripping away calculation. Whatever this is, it's not your responsibility. The creature watched us both. It is, it said quietly. Marcus rounded on it. You don't get to decide that. The creature ignored him. Its gaze stayed fixed on me. You were designed to withstand proximity, it said. Daniel altered his own genome to match yours, not the other way around. My breath stuttered. That's not, I began. You were always the control, it continued. He refined himself to survive the interface. Memories flickered again. Not implanted this time, but real. My father at the kitchen table, staring at my high school biology textbook like it was sacred text. You ever think, he'd asked once, absently, that evolution doesn't just happen forward? I'd rolled my eyes. That's not how time works. He'd smiled sadly. Time is negotiable in some models. At the time I'd thought he was being poetic. Now I wasn't sure. Another tremor rocked the silo. A piece of ceiling panel tore loose and clanged onto the floor near the junction. The spiral staircase groaned under unseen stress. The glow below brightened slightly. Marcus shook me. Evie, choose. I looked at him, then at Sam, then at the creature wearing my father's eyes. What happens if I go down? I asked. Marcus swore. That's not an option. The creature answered instead. You reinforce the boundary. And if I don't? The creature's gaze flicked toward the shaft. It expands. The word wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Sam stepped closer to me. Evie, listen to yourself. You don't even know what it is. Yes, I do, I said softly, because I did. Not in name, not in shape, but in pattern. It's not a thing, I said slowly, as realization settled into place. It's a field. The creature's expression shifted. Approval. Marcus stared at me. What? It's not a monster, I continued, words coming faster now. It's not alive the way we are. It's structural. A resonance embedded in the crust. Maybe deeper. A pattern that predates us. The glow pulsed, again, and I felt my heartbeat sink to it involuntarily. It's always been here, I whispered, and we built on top of it. The creature nodded. Seismic irregularities, I said. Electromagnetic noise, not noise, signal, background signal. Sam shook her head. You're theorising. I'm remembering, I said before I could stop myself. Silence fell. Marcus's grip on my arm loosened. The glow intensified, and for a split second the air above the shaft rippled like heat haze. And in that ripple, I saw something impossible. Not a shape, a curvature, as if space itself bent slightly inward toward the shaft. The silo wasn't just built over something, it intersected something. Marcus saw it too. His breath left him in a thin whisper. That's not a trick of light. The creature stepped closer to the shaft. Daniel believed humanity evolved filters to survive it, it said. Most people never perceive the deeper layer. Their neurology dampens it. And you removed the damping, Sam said, horror dawning. Yes. For soldiers, Marcus demanded. For interface, the creature replied. Another tremor, stronger. This time the spiral staircase shifted several inches, bolts shrieking in protest. A crack tore down the central column. The glow below surged, and with it came something new. A tone, not audible. Felt. A sustained, overwhelming vibration that pushed against my sternum from the inside out. I gasped, and suddenly I wasn't standing in the descent core. I was in a cavern, stone walls glistening with mineral sheen. My father standing at the edge of a vertical void that hummed like a living engine. Lutz behind him, voice tight. We can't stop it with machinery. My father responding, calm but terrified. Then we match it. The vision snapped away. I was back in the silo. The creature was watching me carefully. "You see," it said. Marcus shook his head violently. "She's hallucinating." "No," I said, because it didn't feel like hallucination. It felt like synchronization. The glow below brightened enough now to cast clear shadows up the shaft. And in those shadows, I saw movement. Not a body climbing, a distortion rising, like gravity thickening. Sam backed away from the shaft. "It's coming up." The creature turned sharply toward it. Its voice changed, no longer layered with my father's warmth. Now it was strained. "I can't hold it alone," it said. Marcus looked at me, eyes wide and desperate. "Evie, if you step down there, we might lose you." "If I don't," I said quietly, "you might lose everything." Another bolt snapped with a gunshot crack. The spiral staircase tilted several degrees, metal tearing free. The glow surged upward in a violent pulse, and the layered resonance resolved into something almost articulate. Not words, but intention, expansion. The creature looked back at me one last time. "I didn't want this for you," it said, and in its eyes I saw it clearly now, not manipulation. Regret. I took one step toward the staircase. Marcus grabbed my sleeve. "Evie, please." I squeezed his hand. "I'm not going to die," I said. I wasn't sure if that was true, but it felt incomplete. Sam's voice was barely audible. "If you go down there, you might not come back the same." I managed a thin smile. I already didn't. The central column split another inch with a deafening crack. The glow erupted upward. And something vast shifted just beneath the threshold of visibility. I placed my foot on the first step of the spiral, and the hum inside my bones answered. The moment my weight settled on the first step, the vibration in the silo changed. Not louder, more precise, like a lens focusing. Marcus swore behind me. I heard the scrape of his boots as he took a half step forward, then stopped himself. "Evie," he said, voice cracking. "You don't have to prove anything." "I'm not proving anything," I replied, though my voice sounded distant even to me. "I'm calibrating." The word slipped out naturally. Behind me, Sam let out a short, incredulous breath. "Calibrating to what?" "To it," I said. The spiral staircase groaned again, but this time the sound wasn't purely structural failure. It was strain under adjustment, bolts flexing, metal realigning. The creature stepped to the edge of the shaft, its elongated fingers gripping the railing with unnatural steadiness. "Slowly," it said. I descended another step. The glow from below thickened, turning the air amber and particulate, like light filtering, through deep water. My skin prickled as if submerged in static. Behind my sternum, something answered the layered resonance, not painfully, willingly. The deeper I moved, the more the hum resolved into structure. It wasn't a single tone. It was strata, bands of frequency interlocking, sliding past each other in slow oscillation. My mind began mapping it instinctively, categorizing ranges, detecting interference nodes. "This is insane," Marcus whispered above me. "She's analysing it." "Evie," Sam called carefully, "talk to us. Stay present." "I am present," I said, "more than I've ever been." Another tremor rippled upward, but it no longer felt violent. It felt reactive, as if the field below was adjusting to my proximity. Halfway down the first spiral turn, the air grew colder. The metal beneath my boots hummed in sympathetic vibration. The glow intensified enough that I could see further down. The staircase wrapped around the central column until it opened into a larger chamber below, No longer steel and panelling, but rough stone reinforced with scaffolding. The silo had been built around a natural cavity. My father's memory surfaced again, standing at the edge of that cavity, staring down. "We can't destroy it," he'd said. "We can only dampen it." Lutz had answered, "Then we dampen it with flesh." I swallowed hard. "Evie," the creature called down softly. "You're close enough." I paused, gripping the railing. The glow surged in response, and this time the air above the shaft warped visibly, curving inward as if gravity itself had developed a preference. Below, in the stone chamber, something shimmered. Not a body. A distortion suspended over a vertical borehole drilled into the rock. The borehole pulsed faintly with light, and above it hung an array of machinery. Emitters, cables, monitoring rigs, a containment crown. The creature had been the bridge between that, machinery and the field below. "You were the interface," I said quietly. "Yes," it replied, "and you're failing." Silence. Then, "Yes." Marcus descended one step despite himself. "Evie, we are out of our depth." "That's the point," I said. The glow fled sharply. For a heartbeat, my vision doubled. I saw the chamber as it was, and as it intersected something else. The stone walls bent subtly, as if curving into a space that wasn't strictly three-dimensional. The borehole below did not end in darkness. It extended into a region of layered interference, where lines of force braided like luminous roots. Not alive, not conscious, but structured and rising. The resonance intensified, pressing against my skull. My teeth vibrated painfully. I dropped to one knee on the step, gripping the railing to keep from falling. Marcus shouted my name. The creature's voice cut through the pressure. "Don't resist it." "Don't resist it?" Marcus snapped. "Are you insane?" But I understood what it meant. Resistance created feedback. Synchronization created cancellation, like noise-cancelling headphones. My training snapped into place fully now. "It's constructive interference," I breathed. "When we're out of phase, it amplifies. When we match it." The resonance slammed into me like a wave. I gasped. And suddenly I wasn't just perceiving the field. I was inside its mathematics. Layered oscillations. Deep time harmonics embedded in tectonic stress lines. Patterns cycling on scales older than biology. Human nervous systems weren't designed to process it. But mine didn't shatter. It flexed. The glow surged violently upward. Marcus screamed as the upper levels of the silo rattled, bolts shearing off with sharp metallic cracks. The creature gripped the railing harder, cables along its spine lighting faintly. "I can't hold the amplitude," it said. "You don't have to," I whispered. I stood slowly, another step down. The air thickened. The distortion above the borehole pulsed in response to me now, not outward, toward. Sam's voice floated down, small and terrified. "Evie, what are you doing?" "I'm finishing what he started." The creature's eyes widened slightly. "I didn't want that for you," it said again. "I know." Another tremor shook the chamber, but this time the glow didn't surge higher. It faltered. The layered resonance met something inside me, something tuned decades ago without my consent. I closed my eyes. Instead of resisting the vibration, I adjusted to it. Matched phase. Aligned frequency. For a brief, impossible second, the world became perfectly still. The hum collapsed into silence. Not absence. Equilibrium. Above me, the spiral staircase stopped groaning. The cracks in the walls ceased widening. The glow dimmed to a low, stable pulse. The vast distortion beneath the borehole receded slightly. Not gone, not destroyed. Contained. I exhaled slowly. Behind me, Marcus whispered, "What just happened?" I opened my eyes. The creature stared at me in awe. "You synchronized," it said. The word echoed softly through the chamber. I felt different, not overtaken, expanded. The field below no longer pressed violently against my mind. It brushed against it like wind against a window. Stable. For now. The creature straightened slowly. "You've taken the load," it said. My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" Sam called down sharply. The creature's gaze didn't leave mine. "It means," it said quietly, "she's part of the containment." Above us, faint and distant, I heard something else. Sirens, not from below, from the surface. Marcus froze. "That's not good." Sam's voice went flat. "They know." I looked up the spiral staircase toward the levels we'd descended from, toward the world. The field below pulsed once, gently, responsive, waiting. And for the first time, I understood the true cost. It wasn't death, it was permanence. The sirens weren't loud down here. The silo swallowed sound the way it swallowed light, but the rhythm carried through the metal and stone anyway, an urgent oscillation that threaded itself into the steady pulse I'd just stabilised. Their frequency didn't match, and the field noticed. A faint ripple moved through the amber glow around the borehole, like a surface disturbed by a dropped pebble. Marcus stood 2 turns up the spiral, staring upward as if he could see through 3,000 feet of reinforced earth. "That's the surface," he said. "That's not a hallucination." Sam's voice was tight, controlled. "We have to go. Now." I didn't move. I was still kneeling on the step, palm against the railing, feeling the boundary hum through the steel as if it were part of my body. The equilibrium I'd found wasn't fragile exactly. It was active. It required constant micro-adjustments, like balancing on a moving deck. The creature watched me with something I couldn't name. Gratitude, relief, shame. "You can't stay," Marcus called down, desperation creeping into his tone. "Evie, we can't leave you in here." The creature answered softly, "She already is in here." I looked up at Marcus. His face was lit by Sam's flashlight in harsh angles, familiar and terrified. My oldest friend, the person who had always believed the world hid patterns meant to be found. He looked at me now like he'd found one too big. "I can come up," I said slowly. The sentence tasted false as soon as it left my mouth. I could physically climb. I could reach the hatch. But the part of me that had just aligned with the field, if I pulled it away abruptly, the cancellation would collapse. The amplitude would spike. Expansion. I felt it as a knowledge deeper than reasoning, the way you know you can't yank a catheter out without consequences. The interface had become continuous. The creature's voice came gently. "If you sever too quickly, it surges." Sam descended a few steps, stopping at a safe distance as if proximity to me now carried risk. "Then what? We just accept this. We let her become whatever you are." The creature's mouth tightened. "I did not become this by choice." The words hit like a slap. I stared at it. "You said Daniel volunteered." "Yes," it replied, and he lied. Marcus went rigid. "What?" The creature's eyes didn't blink. "He volunteered to protect you, but he did not volunteer to be used the way Lutz used him." My throat tightened. I thought of my father's smile in the photo. Too wide. The kind of smile people make when they're trying to convince themselves they're doing the right thing. Sam's voice was sharp. "Explain." The creature exhaled. A slow mechanical contraction. Lutz needed a stable interface, a living filter. He couldn't build one with machinery, so he built one with biology. Your father's genome was compatible. Yours was more. My stomach lurched. "Stop." But the creature kept going, and I realised it wasn't trying to hurt me. It was trying to be honest. maybe for the first time in years. Daniel believed he could control the extent, it said. He believed he could keep you out by taking the burden himself. Lutz agreed. Lutz promised him that you would never be involved. Marcus's voice shook. And then? The creature's gaze flicked toward the journals up above, the monitors, the evidence of obsession. Then Lutz realised Daniel could not sustain the load indefinitely. Biological systems degrade, they fatigue, they fail. Lutz needed redundancy. Sam's mouth went dry. A second interface. The creature looked back at me. A successor, it said. The field beneath the borehole pulsed faintly, as if amused by the word. My fingers curled involuntarily around the railing. The metal felt warm now. Lutz edited me. I whispered. The creature shook its head slowly. Daniel did. Not to serve Lutz. To survive what Daniel knew would happen if anyone ever came for him. My vision blurred. I saw my father's hands in my memory, washing a scraped knee, tying a bandage, smoothing my hair back. Small, tender gestures that now felt like prelude to something monstrous. He'd altered me, not with malice, with love twisted into desperation. Marcus climbed down another step, voice cracking. Evie, we can still pull you out. We can... Can we? I asked quietly. I didn't mean it cruelly. I meant it honestly, because the field responded to my thoughts now, not with words, with pressure, with subtle shifts in resonance. When I felt fear, the amplitude rose. When I focused, it stabilised. My emotions were no longer private. They were variables in an equation the entire silo depended on. Sam reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. I'm calling someone, she said. Marcus snapped. Don't! Sam's eyes flashed. If they're already coming, we need leverage. We need to control the story before it controls us. The creature's gaze sharpened. You do not control them. Sam hesitated. Who? The creature didn't answer. Because we all heard it then, faint but unmistakable. The sound of the silo waking above us. Not just sirens, boots, heavy, organised. Multiple sets. Metal doors opening in sequence. A distant, clipped voice echoing down the corridors. Team Alpha, proceed to Ring D. Secure data and biological assets. Repeat, secure data and biological assets. Sam's face went white. Marcus stared at her. You brought them. I didn't, she started, then stopped, because denial couldn't survive that kind of timing. She swallowed hard. I made a call before we entered the fence. A check-in. A safety measure. I didn't think... You didn't think, Marcus repeated, voice full of venom. Sam's hands trembled around the phone. I didn't know this would be... this. The creature's voice dropped, layered resonance leaking into it again. They always return when the boundary weakens. I felt the field pulse in irritation, an amplitude spike, subtle but real. I forced myself to breathe slowly. The glow steadied, but the sense of approaching presence from above grew heavier, like pressure descending. Marcus crouched slightly, eyes wild. Evie, tell me what to do. You're plugged into this now. What do we do? My mouth went dry, because I knew what the simplest answer was. The simplest answer was also the cruelest. If they reach the chamber, I said softly, they'll try to take the interface. Sam's voice cracked. Take you. The creature nodded once. Or replace her. A chill went through me. I imagined men in hazmat suits, sedatives, restraints, a wheeled gurney. I imagined them cutting the connection, crudely, forcing the field to surge, then blaming the surge on an accident. I'd seen the videos. I'd read Lutz's notes. If they came down here, they wouldn't be rescuers. They'd be technicians. And I wasn't a person anymore, not to them. I was an asset. The field pulsed again, and this time it carried something else, an impression like a door in the mind cracking open, revealing a deeper rhythm beneath. A rhythm that wasn't contained by steel or stone. The boundary wasn't just a barrier, it was a negotiation, and I was now the translator. I looked at the creature. Is there a way to lock them out? The creature's eyes flicked upward. Not without sealing the silo, it said. Marcus's voice went hoarse. Seal it how? The creature's gaze returned to me. With you inside, it said. Silence slammed down harder than any tremor. Sam whispered, No. Marcus shook his head. No, we find another way. But the field, below, pulsed, steady and patient. And I realised something that made my stomach twist. My father had been here, in this same position, hearing the same impossible choice. He had chosen to stay, until his body couldn't sustain it anymore. And in the end, he'd left warnings because he knew one day I might come and inherit the decision. I looked up the spiral staircase. The boots above were closer now. Metallic clinks of gear, radio chatter. They were descending. I took a slow breath, steadying the amplitude. Then I said the words that tasted like grief and steel. Marcus, Sam, you need to go. Marcus shook his head immediately. No, he said. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a simple refusal that carried 20 years of shared history inside it. No, I am not walking out of here without you. The boots above were unmistakable now, measured, professional, descending in coordinated intervals. A clipped voice echoed faintly down the spiral. Thermal signatures confirmed below. Proceed with caution. Sam's breath came in short pulls. They've got imaging, she said. They know exactly where we are. I tightened my grip on the railing and focused. The field responded instantly, subtle, elastic. The glow at the borehole's edge pulsed in sync with my breathing. They can't see this layer, I said quietly. Marcus stared at me. What layer? The interference, I replied. They'll see bodies, heat, movement. They won't see the structural distortion. Above us, a metallic clang echoed as a section of upper catwalk was secured. Orders barked, equipment shifted. Sam descended another step, voice urgent. Evie, if you stay and they seal this place, you'll disappear. Officially. No records, no body, nothing. I already disappeared once, I said. The creature stood beside the railing, elongated silhouette steady in the amber light. You are stable, it said to me. For now. The phrase carried weight. For now, Marcus snapped. Biological systems degrade, the creature replied calmly. Even optimised ones. I swallowed. How long did he last? I asked. The creature's gaze softened. Years, it said. Longer than Lutz predicted. The boots were close enough now that I could hear fabric rustle, the faint whir of a powered device being activated. Visual on lower chamber, a voice crackled from above. I have 3 civilians and 1 unknown biological. Sam flinched. They see you, Marcus whispered. No, I said. They see heat signatures. Another voice. Command wants the asset contained intact. Asset. The word landed exactly where I expected it to. Marcus looked at me, panic breaking through anger. They're talking about you. The field pulsed faintly, and I felt something else beneath it now. A deeper rhythm I hadn't fully accessed yet. A reserve, not explosive. Defensive. They can't take the interface, I said slowly. Not without destabilising it. Sam's eyes widened. Evie. I don't mean kill them, I added quickly. I mean, Remove access. The creature tilted its head. Seal the boundary. Yes. Marcus stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. I can shift the phase locally, I said. If I push the interference upward along the spiral, it will distort spatial continuity just enough. Just enough for what? He demanded. For them to lose the path, I replied. Above us, a helmeted figure appeared at the top of the spiral, rifle angled downward. The visor reflected amber light. "Hands where I can see them!" the soldier shouted. The sound fractured slightly as it travelled downward, bending at the edges. Sam raised her hands instinctively. Marcus did the same, though his eyes never left me. I didn't move. "Ma'am," the soldier barked, "step away from the shaft." I felt the field respond to the command, not emotionally, but reactively. A spike of amplitude as external force intruded. The creature leaned closer to me. "You must decide now," it murmured. The soldier took one step down the spiral. The metal beneath his boot shimmered faintly. "Evie," Marcus whispered, voice breaking. "If you do this, we might not find you again." I looked up at him. Really looked. At the boy who once built radios in his garage just to hear distant stations. At the man who believed truth was worth danger. "Find me in the signal," I said, softly. Sam's eyes filled, but she kept her hands raised. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Whether it was for calling someone or for not stopping me, I didn't know. The soldier descended another step. The field pressed against me, ready. I closed my eyes. Instead of resisting, instead of bracing, I leaned into the deeper rhythm beneath the borehole. It responded immediately, an immense, layered resonance unfolding like a cathedral of mathematics. I didn't amplify it. I redirected it. Upward, through the central column, through the spiral. The glow surged, not violently, but coherently. The amber light thickened, turning the air into something almost liquid. The soldier shouted as the step beneath him warped, not bending physically, but spatially. His boot seemed to sink into a curvature that wasn't visible, only felt. "What the hell?" His voice stretched, elongated, as if distance had become elastic. The rest of the team above hesitated. "Fall back!" someone yelled. The spiral staircase flickered in and out of alignment. Steps appeared a fraction of an inch, offset from where they should be. The railing seemed to curve inward impossibly. Marcus stared upward in awe and horror. "You're folding it!" "Not folding," I whispered. "Misaligning." The field's deeper rhythm stabilised around my intent. The soldier's thermal silhouettes fractured in Sam's flashlight beam, splitting into double images that didn't quite overlap. "Retreat!" a voice echoed, distorted. One by one, the boots withdrew upward. The sirens above cut abruptly. Silence fell down the spiral like a dropped curtain. The amber glow receded to a steady pulse. The spiral staircase straightened. Subtly, imperfectly, but enough. I exhaled slowly. "They're gone," Marcus whispered. "For now," the creature said. My knees buckled slightly, but I stayed upright. The field beneath the borehole hummed in quiet equilibrium. I could feel its edges now. Not infinite, not limitless. Just vast enough to dwarf human ambition. Marcus descended until he was only a few steps above me. He didn't touch me. He was afraid to. "Can you come up?" he asked. I tested the boundary gently, imagining myself stepping away fully. The amplitude rose instantly, a warning tremor through stone and steel. "No," I said. The word hurt. Sam wiped at her face angrily. "There has to be another way." "There wasn't for him," I replied. The creature stood straighter now, its own cables dimming as the load shifted almost entirely to me. "You will not degrade as quickly," it said. "Your baseline was prepared." "That's not comforting," Marcus muttered. I managed a faint smile. The glow below pulsed, patient. I felt it settle around my nervous system. Not invasive, not parasitic. Collaborative. I looked up at Marcus and Sam. "You need to go," I said gently. "Before they regroup." Marcus's jaw trembled. "I can't just—" "You can," I said. "And you will. Because someone has to remember me correctly." Sam nodded slowly, tears tracking silently down her face. "We'll tell it," she said. "Not the government version, the real one." Marcus swallowed hard. "Find the pattern," I told him. "You always do." He let out a broken laugh. Then finally he turned. Sam hesitated one heartbeat longer, then followed him upward. I watched them climb until the spiral curved them out of sight. The creature remained beside me. "You have time," it said quietly. "For what?" "To adapt." I looked down into the borehole. The deeper distortion shimmered faintly, no longer rising. Contained. For now. I felt no chains, no restraints, just resonance. The silo above settled into stillness. Somewhere far up, the hatch would close again. Reports would be written, explanations fabricated. But down here, 3,000 feet beneath Kansas soil, the field continued its ancient oscillation. And I stood within it, not as prisoner, not as sacrifice, as boundary. In motel bathrooms above ground, mirrors would still reflect slightly wrong. Fluorescent lights would still hum in familiar tones. And sometimes, very faintly, if you pressed your teeth together in the quiet of night, you might feel it. A low vibration, steady, patient, waiting.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, and if you liked hearing it through a different voice, let me know in the comments. I read more of them than you think. And if you want more transmissions like this, consider subscribing to help the channel grow. Until next time, listen carefully.